Hi there, welcome to our second video. This one is on going up and down. So we're going to use some of those prusik knots that we learned about. We're going to just talk a little bit about abseiling and how to do it safely, and ascending a rope as well, which is really useful in a self-rescue scenario. As with most climbing safety related things, we have a disclaimer for you. Self-rescue is not like doing an intro course. You need to put some effort in and educate yourself. We are technically, I guess, not doing a self-rescue course, but just giving you some tools. So be responsible, be safe, try this at home, but in a safe manner. And especially now that we're starting to move away from the ground. The last video we were just doing knots and practicing tying, but this video we're going to be leaving the ground. So if you're not confident, get a friend to put you on a top rope belay, or put yourself on a top rope belay if you know how to do that. And just make sure that while you're learning these skills, that if you accidentally make a mistake, it's not going to be catastrophic. So these skills are really important, but they're life-saving skills, and if you make a mistake, your life won't be saved. So make sure you're on it. Okay, so prusiking up a rope is one of the most basic skills that you can have as a climber. Maybe not one of the most basic. Tying a figure of 8 is a basic skill. This is one of the most essential skills you can have as a climber. And there's a few things to be aware of before you start prusiking up a rope. One is to make sure that your rope is attached correctly. Some people have fallen trying to prusik up a rope that's stuck, and the rope has become unstuck, and they have become unstuck as well, which is not great. So make sure that your rope is securely anchored on top. Why would you need to go up a rope? There's a few scenarios. One is you've abseiled too far past your next abseil station. So when you're doing big walls, you'll do 2 abseils in a row, and if you abseil past the midway point, you need to go back up to get to that anchor to reattach and start your next abseil. To get to someone that's stuck, someone above you has fallen, you can prusik up their rope to get to them. A common one is if you fall on an overhanging route, whether you're seconding or the leader, if you're 200 meters from the ground and you fall and you can't get back to the rock, your partner can't just lower you back to the ground so you can climb back up. You have to prusik up the rope, whether you're the leader or the second. So being able to prusik is really useful if you're doing bigger routes, even sport routes that are sometimes overhanging, or you swing out away from the line of hold. If you're stuck on a blank face, you can't just climb the blank face to get to your high point. You're going to have to prusik or make a plan. So learn these skills, might save your life. So how do you go up a rope? Essentially with a prusik. Sorry, that was lame. I've tied a climb heist here, and this is my top prusik, and I'm going to attach this to my belay loop. And this will give me a place to sit down when I'm moving my foot prusik. So there's 2 stages. One is foot going up, and one is body going up. So you want to start by just lifting the waist one as high as you can go and having a seat. Get your foot in the foot prusik, lift that as high as it can go, and then stand up on the foot prusik. So now the foot prusik has given us a step up. So I can use the slack to raise my waist prusik. And then I sit down in my waist prusik and I slide my foot prusik. The higher the better. And then I stand up. And then I slide my waist prusik and sit down. And repeat till you get to the top. There are a few things to be aware of. Number one is that this prusik isn't really very strong. I don't want to trust my entire life just to this prusik. So I'm going to make a backup with a clove hitch. And I'm going to put that back up onto my belay loop. Where I am right now, if I fall, I'll just probably fall to the ground. But higher up, this backup is really important. And then I will do this. And then as I go higher and higher, I'll shift my backup just so that I don't fall so far. Sometimes when you're prusicking, you'll get to a point where the ropes are tied together and you'll need to go past that knot. So I have one over here and I'm going to show you how to prusic past it. It's not too bad. So like for normal prusicking, prusic on your belay loop, foot in the foot prusic. So the first step is to slide your prusic all the way up underneath the knot and hang in it. Just to make things a little clearer, I don't have a backup, but also because I'm 30 centimeters off the ground. But in general, you would have a backup tied on. I'm just going to tie it so you can see actually. So I have my backup, my prusic, my foot prusic. I'm going to slide my foot prusic down a little bit to give me some space to work with, and I'm going to loosen my backup slightly just because I need a little bit of extra work. So currently the prusic and the backup are keeping me safe, but I need a way to move this prusic past this knot and just something to keep me safe while I'm doing it. So I'm going to tie a little bit higher up here, a clove hitch, and for this you need an extra carabiner. Get your prusic to a good height. And you're just going to stand and clip yourself into this prusic to take the weight, carabiner and clove hitch, to take the weight off your waist prusic. So now I have isolated myself from my main prusic, so I can undo it, and depending on the knot you might be able to just slide it over, but in this case I'm just going to tie it above. And you can slide it down to just above the prusic. And now we're going to stand up in our foot loop again and clip our prusic on to our belay loop. Now I'm just going to move my main prusic, my foot prusic up, and slide my waist prusic up a little bit. And all I want to do is be able to isolate the clove hitch and the backup carabiner. So now I've moved my main prusic above the knot. I've been safe the whole time, and I've been backed up as well. Now I can take this clove hitch out. Go a bit higher on the foot. And then, as I did with the waist prusic, I'm just going to undo my foot prusic, lift it above, and carry on prusicking. And when it comes to moving my backup past this knot, I might tie another backup with my spare biner and then shift this one, or work it through, but ideally you want a separate way to be attached while this and this is quite loose. Alrighty, this is my abseil setup. A quick intro of what I have going on. I have a 60 centimeter sling with a knot in it, and my belay device and carabiner over here. And this means my belay device will be a bit further away from my belay loop, creating an extended rappel or an extended abseil. If you just hop online, you'll find 1,000 articles on how to use it and why to use it. But essentially, I just don't want my prusic and my belay device to meet, because the prusic will be pushed down the rope by the belay device like my hand would when I'm abseiling, rendering the prusic useless. I'll demo that in a moment as well. So I'm going to start, what else have I got going on? I have my prusic on a locking carabiner. This is a really cool one, super quick and easy to use. And I have the rest of my sling as a tether, which is attaching me to the anchor. This is just one bolt, but often I'll connect to the quad or to the master point of the anchor, whatever it is that we're going to be using before we abseil. So I'll start by tying a French prusik around the rope. And I'll just pull up a little bit of rope and use the French prusik to hold that rope. So now I don't have to hold the weight of the entire rope. I have a nice loose little bit of rope to work with, and I can load it into my belay device quite easily. This little keeper cable on your belay device, because it's quite big, means you don't have to disconnect your belay device to load the rope. You just load the rope like normal, and instead of unclipping the carabiner and clipping both together, you can just pop it inside, clip it onto the carabiner, and now I haven't had to disconnect my belay device, so I can't drop it, which is a useful thing. Luckily, you know the Mun's edge, so you can abseil without a belay device, but a belay device is really useful. And I will then get ready to abseil. Before I abseil, I'm going to take the weight off my tether and transfer that weight to my belay device and my prusik to make sure that it's working. I know my prusik is biting because it was holding the rope earlier, but I will just give it another test. And then just before I abseil, take the rope tight and just adjust my prusik as well. Okay, so now I know my prusik is biting, my belay device is loaded correctly, and my tether is not tensioned. You don't want to be the guy that thinks everything is right, unclips his tether, leans back, and it's not. So do a good check. This is the last thing to come off before I start going down. And then if this and this were to meet, the belay device would just push the prusik down like this, and it wouldn't be able to bite. And when I abseil, I have one hand above, one hand below, and I just keep sliding the prusik down. And if I were to go unconscious, the prusik would bite, it would catch me, and I'd be happy. Sometimes when you're abseiling, you have to get past a knot. Let me show you how to do that. You might need, you will need an extra prusik. You'll need a carabiner for your backup. So for starters, I'm going to tie a French prusik up here. And the reason I'm doing a French prusik is because I want to be able to release it quite easily afterwards. And because I have a knot underneath me that I'm trying to get past, I'm not too worried about it slipping all the way down the rope because the knot's going to catch me. Just give it a little tug to see that it's biting, and I'm going to clip the end of my tether that's extending my rappel in over here and lock it up. And now, two carabiners together, you might have heard metal on metal is bad. It is in some situations, it's fine in this situation. I'm going to pull up some slack and tie a figure of 8 on a bite. Nicely dressed. And I'm going to clip that onto my belay loop so that I have a backup. So should I make a mistake at any point in this process, I'll fall a little ways, but I won't fall all the way to the ground. Then what I'm going to do is slide this up a little bit and lower myself. Oh my goodness. I made a mistake already. So because I already made this is a cool troubleshooting tip. I've lowered myself down and my prusik is caught on the knot that I'm trying to pass, and I can't release it. So I'm going to tie a loop in the rope below the knot. I'm going to use that as a foothold to stand in. And using that loop, I can unweight my prusik. And a little down the line, I'm going to use it to help unweight this top prusik as well. So now that just gives me just what I need to undo that prusik and lower my belay device down. So now what I can do is take my prusik and put it back on the rope below the knot. So now I have my backup knot and my prusik as well as this prusik. So I'm 3 times connected to the system when I take my belay device off. And you want to just undo your belay device, insert it below the rope, below the knot, not below the rope, because you want to be on the rope. And snug your belay device up to the top of the knot because you want it to be holding ya. And then I'm just going to move this down a little bit so that my prusik and this knot aren't meeting. And I'm just going to stand and just grab. It's important to make sure that this isn't too long, that you can't reach the top of your prusik. But because it's a French, it undoes itself really easily. And I can lower myself down onto my prusik and my belay device. And then I can undo my tether and my prusik above. Now I'm back to just normal abseiling. Undo my backup knots. And I'm good to carry on going.